Good afternoon. This is Peter Towers from ESS BIZTOOLS, welcoming you to this webinar on ESS BIZGrants. What we're going to do is just give you a run through as to how ESS BIZGrants works, so that when you first go on, it's you have a summary there of the procedures for ESS BIZGrants and how it works. So basically, the response you're required to do is to insert details on your client, and then grants that the client could potentially be eligible for will be advised to you. When you're first going to subscribe, you have to complete the subscription form, and that's what you've got on the screen at present. And once you've subscribed and paid the fee, you are able to get 24/7 access by inserting the email address and username, password that you've entered into the system. So where we'll go to now is to the home page. This is taking us obviously into the site, and this is where you would go when you first logged on. So it's just giving a general overview, and we go down to start your search. Now you notice there's a couple of other buttons there. Add a government grant. If you happen to find that there's a grant that you think should be applicable to a small business that you don't think we've got in the system, if you log on there, you'll be able to send us a message. And if you, after you start using the system, you have any testimonials that you'd be happy to add, if you can click onto them, click on there and enter the testimonial, we'd greatly appreciate it. So to start your search, we've now gone through to the members page. One thing we might look at is just give you an overview of some of the grants that are included within the system. So the first one we might go to, and we're not going to go through all these because it takes too long. Obviously, once you're a subscriber, you'll be able to do that yourself. So that's given you a summary there of the apprenticeship incentives for adult apprentices. We wanted to go down a bit further. We'll skip through some of these other apprenticeships. In fact, there's 10 federal government grants for apprentices. You can see all these grants. Some of them are for states. Some are obviously Australian government, and Australian government's got the majority of them. If we go into Clean Technology Group, this is a Enterprise Connect program that relates to businesses who are in an eligible sector for a particular group of businesses. The grant there is up to $20,000 on a 50-50 basis, virtually to do anything from tidying up a workshop to having the workshop redesigned, a business plan, budget, cash flow forecast, reorganising financial affairs, maybe some software work for the business. If we then keep on going, we'll go to the, you see all these different types of grants that we're going through. We want to go through defence industry. Now this one's for the capital cities, and the capital cities for Enterprise Connect are Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth. Apologies to the others, you're considered to be regional centres for Enterprise Connect's purposes. But if you are in one of those listed capital cities, your turnover has to be a higher amount than what it has to be in other parts of Australia. So for the defence industry in capital cities, the turnover has to be more than $2 million. And you can get the grant of up to $20,000. It's also worth mentioning that Enterprise Connect also has a Researcher in Business grant, and you can obtain up to $50,000 on a 50-50 basis for a client who's eligible. The next one we'll go to is early stage commercialisation. Now this is the largest grant that's available to small business in Australia. It's an amount that ranges from $50,000 to $2 million on a 50% basis. It's offered by Commercialisation Australia, a federal government organisation, and it's there to help businesses actually do the final work to get the business ready to start selling to the public. So it looks at things like product development, testing and documentation, market validation, etc. Next one we want to look at is manufacturing centres, and we're going to have a look at the manufacturing centres as it applies to a regional location. So this, you can see what we've got on the screen there. We've got manufacturing centres in a group, and then we've got manufacturing centres in a capital city and then in a region. So first of all, we'll go to regions. And for a manufacturing centre in a region, the turnover is 1.5 million. And what I might mention, you might notice there it says revenue or expenditure. Enterprise Connect's got an interesting component, and that is you only have to exceed the figure, which in this case for a regional location is 1.5 million, if your revenue or expenditure exceeds 1.5 million. So it's building in an allowance for startup businesses who have spent a lot of money on getting started. And you'll see when we get into the actual grant profile or applicant profile that expenditure covers capital expenditure as well as revenue expenditure. And I don't think I mentioned before when we talked about groups, so I'll just quickly go back to it. In a group situation, turnovers are always a lot lower. So if you look at the manufacturing centre group, businesses only have to have a turnover of $1 million to be in the group, so long as the total amount is $4 million. So if you had 4 clients or in the manufacturing industry, or indeed your client was one of another 2 or 3 businesses who wanted to form a group, then they could do so, and the grants that are available are up to $20,000 for each member of the group. So if you put a group together and you're able to do all the work, well, there's grants of up to $80,000 if there's 4 companies in the group, and that would mean $160,000 worth of work was being done. The next, we'll just move through those and go now to research and development. This should be the most common grant that applies within accountancy firms. We'll go, and obviously what we're looking at is the new R&D program that commenced from the, seem to have trouble getting it to come up. Oh, there it is. It's there now. Turnover under 20 million. I mustn't have pushed it right. But obviously there's a separate grant in the system for the R&D tax incentive for amounts of over $20 million. And the one we're looking at here is for the incentive that applies for turnovers under $20 million. As you're probably aware, as long as the client, who has to be a company, has spent more than $20,000 on research and development since the 1st of July 2011, they are eligible for a rebate calculated at 45% of their eligible expenditure. Just make sure that they are registered with Oz Industry by the 30th of April next year, 2013, or the date they lodge their income tax return to be eligible for that funding. And the last one we're just going to look at now on this run through, and then we'll go into an actual business being put in there, is specialist advice and services. This is a Commercialisation Australia grant, and it's the one that's probably the most common for small businesses, people who've just started up. It's also the best subsidy percentage available in Australia, whereby the subsidy is 80% for services that the government will pay for up to $50,000. And it covers a range of things, including business plans, market research, sorting out intellectual property strategies, etc. So what we're going to do now is go to to the actual client profile. Pardon me, if you've already guessed, I've got a bit of a log at present. So we're going to go to client profile, and we're going to enter a new client profile, which we're calling Include in Manufacturing Proprietary Limited. So we're inserting the name of the client. Now, it's got their stroke reference. If you wanted to, you could put a number to identify a client, because all of this information is going to be stored on the in the cloud technology, and that's up to you. If you want to give them numbers, that's your decision. The only people who can get access to this data is the people that you give the password username to. So we might look at entity types. So we'll just click on it and just see what there is. There's a wide selection of entities. The most common entity to be able to obtain a government grant is a company, but there are others there that you can see who are eligible for some grants. So we're going to click on company. The next question is, do you export? We're going to answer yes for this. Do you import? We're going to answer yes. Number of employees, we're going to say we've got 30 employees. Now, some of these government grants have minimum number of employee requirements. That's why the number of employees is fairly important. And it's, in most cases, it's full-time equivalent employees. Has the business got an ABN? You won't get a grant unless you answer yes to that. How many years has the business been trading? We're going to say 9, but again, some grants, especially some of the state grants, have a minimum number of years that a business must be trading before they can get a benefit. Turnover, we're going to put in $5,650,000 for this business. Expenditure, we're going to put in $5,500,000. There's a little explanation thing there. We'll just go to it. And what that's really telling you is expenditure. The expenditure question really only relates for Enterprise Connect, and it's only there as an alternative if your client is unable to meet the revenue requirement. So we'll keep on going. Are we registered for GST? We need to answer yes, otherwise you won't get in. Is the business tax exempt? We're going to say no. Does the business undertake research and development? We're saying yes. And is the business currently in any financial vulnerability? We're going to answer no. And these days, if you answer yes for that, you probably won't be acceptable. Okay, the address of the business, we're putting it in as 280 Fruit Street, Bankstown, New South Wales. And the postcode there, I understand, is 2200. So we've put all that in, and we'll save that. Now, the screens come back up with client locations again if you had more than one location. So a lot of businesses have got town offices or city offices, but then they've got factory locations in other areas. You could then enter those locations. And what that might show you is for some of your locations, the business may be eligible for a particular government grant. So we haven't got any other locations in this hypothetical, so we're going to go next. What's that bringing up? You can then go back and check if you want to, your entity details, your address, your financial data, it all comes up. But we need to now answer the business and industry profile. So if we go into that, pardon me, we can see what type of businesses we can get. Now, these businesses are all in accordance with the Commonwealth Statisticians' definition of businesses, and they are in accordance with the ANZIC, the Australian and New Zealand industry classifications. So we're going to pick for this business manufacturer, and we then go to industries. Again, the industries are in accordance with the ANZIC requirements. We're going to hit manufacturing, and we add that. And then what we get is the opportunity of going to the search. Now the search is first of all telling us what are the pending grants. Now these potentially match the business profile, but we've now got to go through and do some more detailed sorts. So we have been given a number of apprenticeship grants. As I said before, there are 10 in Australia. Some of them will not come up for this particular client because the client is based in one of the deemed capital cities. So we're going to have a look at the apprenticeship incentives for an adult. So we click on that name, and that's taking us through to some supplementary questions. If you want to, you can read about the grant and the funding details. It's just telling you what the funding details are. If we go into Grant Toolkit, we have identified there that there is an ESS BIZTOOLS paper. So if you want to read in more depth or give your client the paper so they can have a far more in-depth appreciation as to what a particular grant is about, you can then click on, and in a couple of seconds we will have the ESS BIZTOOLS paper that relates to the apprenticeship incentive overview. So that's there and it's available. We can brand that and hand that to the client, or you can read that to make yourself familiar with what's included. So what we want to do now is go to additional criteria. These are the additional questions that have to be answered before you can determine absolute eligibility. Now in this case there is only one question, but in some of the others there is could be up to 6 or 7 questions. So the question is your business proposing to employ a person over 25 years as an apprentice and to upgrade his or her skills in Certificate 3 or Certificate 4 level as per the National Skills Base? Okay, so we're going to answer yes to that because that's the client's intention. What that's immediately done has shown us that we're eligible, and we can now go back to the results. And in the results now, if we click on potentially eligible, we got one grant that's sitting there. So we might now go back to pending, and it's now showing us that we've only got 28 grants pending because we've already dealt with one of them, because originally there was 29. Now we're going to skip through some of these apprenticeship ones, because having decided we're going to get the client to be interested in the adult apprenticeship, none of those other apprenticeships are of interest to us. The Australian Bureau of Statistics, I'm going to pass by that because every small business can get benefits from them. Australian Technology Showcase, it's a non-cash grant that's available for businesses located in New South Wales and Queensland. But we're going to flick through that. The clothing and household textiles, we might go into that now, and we go to the additional criteria. Now, one of the problems of using the ANZIC definitions of business is that a business who is a manufacturer of clothing is the same as a manufacturer of steel products. So this particular additional criteria says, is this business an Australian-based entity operating in the manufacturing design for clothing and household textiles? Or if our client was a steel fabricator, obviously they're going to answer no to that question. So if we answer no, and what that is now showing is that we're ineligible. It's giving us a wording that you've answered no, so you're not eligible. Now you could continue to read the remainder of the questions there if you wish to, but it's unless you're going to change your answer, the system will not make your client eligible for that grant. And timing is very important in going through and looking at these processes. So my suggestion is, if you get told something's ineligible, unless you think you've answered the question incorrectly, in which case you can go back and change it, just proceed. So we go back to the results. We might just show you the effect of all that, though. We have a look at potentially ineligible, and we've now got that clothing and household textile. We've already got one in potentially eligible, so we go back to pending. It's now changed the number down to 27. We might go through till we get to corporate wear scheme. So have a look at corporate wear scheme. It's a fairly popular scheme. It's available to businesses, so we go to the additional criteria. Has the business made payments for non-compulsory occupational clothing? We answer yes to that. Does the uniform comply with the requirements? Answer yes to that. And it's saying we're eligible. So we go back, and we might now go down and just click through a few of these others. Now, obviously, you know the composition of your clients, so we're looking for defence industry. No, it's not there. So the next one we're going to go through is Export Market Development Grant. That's there. Now, we said in the initial stages that this client was an exporter. So if we go to additional criteria, have you spent money to seek out and demand markets for your new product? We'll answer yes for that. Are you claiming overseas representatives or marketing consultants' expenses? Have you maintained the necessary documentation required? We'll answer yes to that. If you're claiming expenses under the marketing visit categories, have you maintained full records? Yes. If you've claimed 2 export market development grants in prior years, have you discussed with Austrade the export performance tests for grant determination? We'll answer yes to that. Will the business spend more than $20,000 in 2011-12, excluding New Zealand, North Korea and Iran? And for a first-time claimant, you can spend more than $20,000 in 2 combined years. So if we answer yes to that, and are we the principal for the export business? We answer yes for that, and that should say that we're eligible, and we'll go back to the basic thing. Now, we could keep on going, but what I want to show you is the impact of how we've answered this. So if we go back to the potentially eligible list, we've only got 3 there, but we're just giving you a demonstration so you can see how this works. What you can do now is click on the name of the grant that you're potentially eligible for. It is now taking us through, and we can go to the Apply Now. You can have a look at the toolkit if you wish to get more information, but let's have a look at Apply Now. So what Apply Now has done, it's brought up the URL of the particular government department. If you click on that, it's taking you through to the Australian Apprenticeship website, which has got all the details about the application. Okay, if we get out of that, we'll go back and look at the next one. We're just going back to where we were. We're going now to look at corporate wear scheme. If you click on there, it takes you through. We go to Apply Now. That'll take you through the URL. We should go to the government website, and it will take us through to there. Close down out of there. And obviously what you can do then is go through and find the application form that's then on that website. We go to Export Market Development Grant, go to Apply Now, got the URL, we go through to there, and that will give you the application form to be submitted to Austrade to register that business. So if we go back to results, and we go on to the potentially eligible, you're then able to print that report up and it might have 4 or 5 or 6 grants on it, which you're then able to sit down and discuss with your client. This will give you the opportunity of talking to your client as to whether they want you to proceed with researching the grant and completing the application form, and obviously giving you the okay to start a cost record on that particular work so that you can charge the client for it. So that, in summary, is how the system works. Just a couple other points that I'd like to add. When you print the report out, which we're calling the potentially eligible report, there will be a disclaimer page is also printed with it, so as to safeguard you, that a client's not going to come back at you about some indication about a grant, because at the end of the day, your client is then got to be acceptable to the particular government department. The other thing which we've built into this system is that the system obviously records all the details on your client. So all that you've got to do next year is review the information which you have under the client profile, change turnover, number of employees, perhaps change some of the answers to the questions. Maybe the client has started to export. And then you're very quickly able to get an update. If any new grants are issued during the year and we place them on the system, then the system will go through and search the database, and if it finds that that new grant suits one of your clients, you will receive a message to say that there's a new grant in the system, name of such and such, which potentially suits the requirements of, and will name the client or clients that will apply to. And this will allow you to be far more proactive with clients in contacting them to see whether they might be eligible for a government grant. Last week someone asked me, what's the best way to use this within an accountancy business? Well, obviously the first way is if a client contacts you and says, I've heard about government grants, and if you read our Business Plus newsletter, which is being distributed today to our subscribers, you will notice that we have a series starting on government grants. So the client may well have read that, and he rings you and says, can you check what government grants I might be eligible for? So then you'd insert the client's details, and the system will do what I've just shown you. However, what we believe will be a very practical way of using this software is, as part of the end of preparation of financial accounts and income tax returns for a business, that one of the last jobs to be done by the accountant who has undertaken the task is to insert for the first time the client's details into ESS BIZGrants, or update the details if we're talking about next year, and prepare a list of grants that the client might be eligible for, so that that list is available for the partner or manager who's conducting the final interview to raise with the client, to show them the grants that might be available, and to get the client's approval for your firm to proceed with logging onto the government websites, getting the government application forms, and looking to have discussions with the client re the completion of the actual application form. In other words, we believe it enables you to be very proactive in bringing to the attention of your clients the existence of government grants. Now, the government grants we've included in ESS BIZGrants only relate to those grants which we believe will apply to small, medium enterprises. We will be working very diligently over the next few weeks in tracking down some new grants that we are aware that some of the state governments have issued in recent times. And from there on, we will be monitoring all of the grants on a monthly basis to make sure that if grants are withdrawn because there's no more funds available or they've run their term, that we remove them from the system. And in that regard, you may have noticed when I was going through the list of grants that are available, we've still got R&D rebate in the system and research and development. They both will be removed on the 30th of April 2012 because some businesses have still got until that date to register for research and development expenditure incurred in the year ended 30th of June 2011 if they haven't already lodged their income tax return. So that is a brief introduction to how ESS BIZGrants works. Incidentally, we believe that the time that will be taken once your staff have got some familiarity with the system on inputting the client data will be about 10 to 12 minutes, 2 units on the traditional 6-minute time. We believe that you can probably cover that in your annual accounts income tax return preparation, and hopefully by being very proactive with the client and producing that list of grants that the client appears that they might be eligible for, you'll be able to convince the client to approve it as a new project, and you'll be able to charge for that. Some people are also asking me what to charge for this service. You can do it on a normal time basis if you wish. However, as you're probably aware, at this stage there are a significant number of consultants out there who will seek out government grants for clients, and they charge a fee of somewhere between 5 and 10% of the value of the grant. So you could determine a fee to be charged on a forward estimate basis, or you could charge in the traditional method of the time basis. If you've got any queries on any aspect of how ESS BIZGrants operates, could you please send us an email and we'll get back onto you and talk to you. Thank you for participating today, and I hope my voice didn't come through too crackly, but we look forward to those firms who are on this webinar today becoming subscribers to ESS BIZGrants. Thank you very much. Have a great day.